Welcome back to another episode of the Stat Sheets podcast. As always, it's your boy Alex. I got my guy Najee, and today we're gonna talk about some NFL free agency because it's been really popping off hot the past couple of days. But before we jump into it, make sure, as always, if you like what we're bringing to you for content, make sure you hit that like button. If you want to see more, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell for all of our post notifications. And leave a comment down below if you want to see some more great content. We talk about the NFL, NBA, March Madness coming up. Anything you want to talk about, let us know down below. But Najee, free agency is here. We've seen some big time moves, some big time names getting jumped all across. And we got some winners, we got some losers. So who do we think won from the first couple of days? Let's get a disclaimer. Nothing is won in the offseason. All right, let's just building a team. Super Bowls are played in February. We're in March. We were just at square one. But some teams made big moves to try to get there in February. So who do we think won? And who do we think lost to the first couple of days here of free agency?
Um, there's definitely a few winners. I consider to be way more losers in this free agency so far than winners. But one of the big winners to me is the Eagles, right? You lose Fletcher Cox, you lose Jason Kelsey, and you're like, man, you got kicked out by the Tampa Bay, right? You guys have to improve somewhere. Um, you go get Saquon Barkley, which I think is huge because he's coming off a team that had no other offense but him, no offensive line. So now you got an offensive line, you got weapons, decreasing your workload. I do see a healthier Saquon this year. Um, then you bring back in C.J. Gardner Johnson, and I think they just signed Devin White, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Right. So to me, they're making major moves. You made some losses, but then you're making up for those losses, and it's in categories that I feel is very needed. So the Eagles made big moves, and they're trying desperately to get back into the Super Bowl, especially after the huge disappointment and the collapse by this team last year. Even though AJ Brown was out in the first round because he got injured the last game of the season, but still probably would have lost anyway because that team had a complete collapse. So I like what they've done this offseason, and the offseason isn't even enough for them. I definitely expect them to make a move or two more and see what happens. And then the second winner, and by any means, I don't think this team is going to win a Super Bowl off of what they've done, but they're competing with teams, and it's the Tennessee Titans. Let's just talk about the offensive side of the ball because I think they realize that Ryan Tannehill is probably the worst starting quarterback in the league. And no one's even touching him right now, which I think is smart. Every team is smart for not dealing with Ryan Tannehill. But you go get Tony Pollard. Well, I know we're not sure because of what he did behind that offensive line in Dallas. Yeah, I think he's an upgrade. Oh, I'm not gonna say upgrade, but I don't think Derrick Henry did much last year, and I think that he can fill in those lines and maybe even do a little bit more for this team, especially with that speed because he is a speedster. And then you go get Calvin Ridley. I think you spent a lot of money on Calvin. I don't know if he's worth it. I mean, we're going to find out, but you're building around Will, right? You still got Diop, and now you got Calvin. I think this offense is going to be one of the better offenses this league has this upcoming season if they can stay healthy. Probably a piece or two on the offensive line could still help, but like we said, the off season is not done yet. But as far as winners, I think these two are two of the top three to me that stuck out the most as far as winning this offseason. So major moves by the Eagles, major move by the Titans, and I can't wait to see what else they do this offseason. And the draft is yet to come as well. So we'll see what happens. And as far as losers are concerned, got the Buffalo Bills. Dude, the Bills. I mean, you get rid of Tre'Davious White, and I understand it because for the past few years he has not even been healthy. He was one of the best cornerbacks in the league when healthy, and some would say even the best. Tre'Davious White was a dog, so you lose him. All right, I think they got rid of Micah Hyde too. Am I mistaken, Alex? So you got to get rid of Micah Hyde.
And
You
Jordan
lost
Poyer.
and Jordan Poyer, and I mean your secondary is hurting. You did nothing, and it's not even the worst part. You lose Gabe Davis too, right? I mean, you gain Mac Hollins. That's not an upgrade to me. I do like Mac, but it's not an upgrade. You've done nothing to show Stephon Diggs a reason to stay.
It's
You've
true.
done nothing to give anybody on that offense, him, Josh, or whoever. All right, we're competing. I'm doing what I can for you guys to give you the best weapons, the best chance, put you in the best position for success, so we can really compete with those Chiefs, so we can compete with those Ravens, so we can compete with a healthy Bengals team, or whatever the case may be. You're not doing that. To me, this is probably one of the bigger disappointments in free agency. And like we said, it's not over, but what else can you get right now? I mean, you're losing time and you're losing time fast, especially since some of the moves some of these other teams are making. So the Bills definitely to me are a huge, huge upset. And I think this is the year we start to see that the decline is coming in. Stephon Diggs is going to be out of there, Chicago. Anyways, my other loser, Atlanta Falcons. Look, don't get me wrong. I like Kirk. What? Not too much. He's losing our division for the longest. I like him now. He's out of there. But he's a good quarterback, but he's had talent like Stephon Diggs, TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, Deshaun Jackson. I mean, he's had elite talent his whole career almost, right? So you come to the Falcons, you don't have that elite talent. I'm not saying you don't have talent. You don't have the elite talent, and then you pay him 180 million for 4 years, coming off of Achilles tear, and he's 35. Who do you think he is? Tom Brady? You thought he was Aaron Rodgers? No, he's not. You haven't seen him in a position where he has to make receivers. You haven't seen him in that position where he can lead you somewhere and win. I think he's 1-4 and 1-5 as far as playoff record is concerned, right? That's not good. That's not, and I still don't even think they're the best team in that division. But to me, that's not even it, right? You'll get Darnell Mooney from Chicago. I like Darnell Mooney. You go get Raymond McLeod. You go get Rondale Moore. You go make additions to the offense that are they are nice additions, but it doesn't put you in the upper echelon. To me, I think you made the offense look better, right? That's what I feel like you did. So you can gain yards, you might gain touchdowns, but I don't think much of change. And last year they had an easier schedule, right? They only played like five great teams, in my opinion. And Tampa Bay was up there, played them twice, right? That's not the case this year. They're facing teams like the 49ers, facing teams like the Bills. They got the Eagles week one. I mean, they have a lot of great teams on their schedule this year, too. And then you lose Jeff Okuda and Clyde Campbell on the defensive end. You already weren't the best rush defensive team anyway, right? And then I think you're pretty good. Your secondary will be all right. But I don't think this team did anything to compete. I don't think this team did anything to compete in their division because I still think the Buccaneers are the best team in that division. I still think the Saints, which it goes every year, they're even pace. So who can finish above who? And these guys have the harder schedule. So I don't think you did anything to really help the Falcons in the future. And we'll see what Kirk Cousins should get because that's a risk. You're paying a man $45 million a year for 4 years, 100 million guaranteed. Man, Kirk is a winner on that team, but the rest of the team won't be. So that's what I think about this offseason. Alex, can I piggyback off of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to digest there. I agree with most of your takes. I can agree on the Titans and the Eagles being winners. And I can even agree on the Bills being losers, but I don't know if I can necessarily the Falcons are losers. I mean, I wouldn't say they're, they did the best this free agency run, but getting a veteran quarterback like Kirk Cousins, who's proven, I'm not gonna say he's a winner by any means. He can win games, but when it comes to playoff time, we've seen he can't get it done. I believe he only has like one playoff win in his career, which is obviously not what you want. But what the Falcons had is, Desmond Ritter, and that wasn't good enough. They shipped him off to Arizona. I did like that trade that they got Rondale Moore for Desmond Ritter. Um, I think looking outside of the receivers they got Mooney and Moore. I think that's good enough for Kirk Cousins to be wide receiver two, three, or even three and four. They have Drake London, but I like getting Kirk Cousins for their elite talent that's already there. And Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts, pretty good offensive line in front of them, and they still have a top 10 pick in the first round coming up. So
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think the only question mark I would say really is signing Kirk Cousins to that massive deal when he's in his mid 30s, mid to late 30s. His career is dwindling down. That's a massive contract. Especially when just an offseason ago they declined to talk to a guy like Lamar Jackson, who was in his mid 20s. And I mean, you would have paid him what? Obviously more, right? But for a guy that's, I don't know, 10 years younger, that's my only question mark. It's a big contract for a vet, but nonetheless, I wouldn't say the Falcons are losers. I think they did all right. But let me get into my winners, okay? So first up, I'm going to talk about the Houston Texans. I mean, what a story they had last year. C.J. Stroud, Offense Rookie of the Year. Will Anderson came in and was Defensive Rookie of the Year. Two studs that they got in the first round last year. Made the playoffs, won their division out of nowhere. Huge year for the Texans. Even got a playoff win over the Cleveland Browns. I mean, that no one really saw that coming going into that game. And then you go in this offseason, and D'Amico Ryan's our head coach, is a defensive oriented coach. Um, and they made moves on the defensive side of the ball. Brought in Daniil Hunter from the Minnesota Vikings. And it's funny because they lost Jonathan Grenard, who was a solid pass rusher on his own, and they basically did a swap. Grenard went to the Vikings, and Daniil Hunter went from the Vikings to the Texans. Big upgrade there. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league, easily top 10. You could argue he's a top 5 pass rusher. He brought in other good pieces on the D line: Danico Autry, Tim Settle, good linebacker in Aziz Shire. These are good pieces on a already stout Texans defense. And then we already know what the offense is looking like. It was elite last year, and now you go out and trade for Joe Mixon for nothing. What, a seventh round pick? Joe Mixon, maybe not the most elite running back, but he's proven, and he's definitely an upgrade of what they already had because they didn't have a run game last year. So that's huge for CJ Stroud. I think the Texans are bound to not only win the division again, but get better, win more playoff games. Texans are a fun team to watch. And my second winner, I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders. They came into this offseason with a plan. They had the most money, most cap space, and they had the number 2 overall pick in the draft. And step one's done. They knocked it out of the park with their offseason haul. We can pretty much guarantee they're going to get a rookie quarterback with their second overall pick. Which one it'll be? Probably not Caleb Williams because that'll probably be Najee's Bears. Sorry to tell you, but Caleb Williams probably won't be there. But they can easily get whoever they want. Drake May, Jaden Daniels. I mean, they can go get J.J. McCarthy if they feel willing enough. I wouldn't do that, but it's up to them, right? So you bring in a guy like Austin Eckler, proven vet back who may come off more as a fantasy darling than an actual, star running back, because he can catch a lot of passes. But he's a playmaker, and that's what a rookie quarterback will need. Brought in a vet tight end in Zach Ertz, beefed up the O line, uh, took Tyler Biadasz from the Cowboys, and then they got better on the defensive side of the ball. Got one of the best linebackers, maybe the best linebacker the past 10 years in Bobby Wagner. Uh, Two good pass rushers, a solid safety in Jeremy Chin. They did what they had to do. Had the most money coming in to the offseason, and they made moves. And I think it all bodes well for whoever they pick in the first round at number 2, whichever quarterback they may be. I think they have a much better roster than they had, and they just shipped off Sam Howell to Seattle, pretty much telling us they will go quarterback.
Yep.
But so those are my 2 winners, Texans and Commanders. And like I just said, they traded Sam Howell to Seattle. I actually have the Seattle Seahawks as my loser. And looking at on paper, you might not think that they really did anything bad, but I think it's because they didn't do much. I think they could have did a lot more. They just brought in Mike McDonald, who was the Ravens defense coordinator. And initially, I'm thinking they're going to go out and get a guy like Patrick Queen because they just lost uh who they just have over there? Jordan Brooks. They just had Jordan Brooks at their linebacker position. He went to Miami. You would think you bring in a guy like Patrick Queen. They lost Jamal Adams, Andre Diggs. They lost some big names on the defense, and bringing in a defensive minded coach like that, you would think they'd beef up the defense. All they really did was re-sign Leonard Williams, who is a great player in his own right. But they had the money to go get players, and they didn't do it. Not that I thought they would. I really thought they would go out and get some key defensive players, and they didn't add much to the offense outside of Sam Howell, who will be a solid number two quarterback behind Geno Smith. But outside of that, I feel like they really missed the ball, at least in the first couple of days of free agency. I think they could have upgraded a lot more.
Yep.
And my second loser, I mean, which is kind of obvious. A lot of people are hating on the moves that this team made. That would be the Dallas Cowboys. And the reason they're hating on the moves is because they made none. Keep in mind, they didn't have a ton of money to spend, but when you got your owner, Jerry Jones, who honestly just needs to stop talking, he talks way too much for his team. I mean, when you're not on the field, there's really no reason you should be talking. Um, you lost some big names. You lost Stephon Gilmore, Tony Pollard. Um, already talked about your center going to the Commanders. They lost their veteran tackle and Tyron Smith, who they could bring back, but that's to be seen. And they only made one signing, and that was Eric Kendricks, who I guess they stole away from, who was it, the 49ers or whoever
Yep.
it was. Um, yeah, I mean it's just disappointing, especially when if you're a Cowboys fan, you watch the Cowboys disappoint you in the playoffs every year, and now they're still disappointing you into March because they're not doing anything. Not to say they don't have a good team still, but when you got a guy like Dak Prescott who's making a ton of money, CeeDee Lamb's making a ton of money, not to mention Micah Parsons will be making a ton of money here in a couple years, if not next year.
Yep.
I feel like they're losing good players, and they're gonna have to pay the great players they already have. And it feels like every year we say this is the Cowboys' year, but so far with these moves, it's not looking like it's gonna be another Cowboys year of just disappointment. But free agency just started, plenty of time, but not a fan of the Cowboys or the Seahawks moves. Those are my two losers. So I don't know how you feel about my predictions there, or my picks, I should say.
I love everything you said, especially about the Commanders. Those guys are in the business of winning and winning now. They've made some major moves. They're playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. And I cannot wait to see what they do in the draft because that front office looks like they know what they're doing. I don't know too much about Geno Smith starting over Sam Howell. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I think they should package Geno up. I like Geno though. I do. I'm a fan, but I think it's my bias in it. But I do think that they should try
A
start Sam Howell.
good battle nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely. And a part of me think that's what Chicago is going to do, especially because, like you said, they were too late moving Justin, and now they don't know what to do with him. But I think we'll try to have. I think we'll draft Caleb. I think we'll have a battle of those QBs right in the training in a training camp or whatever, and just see who's better, and then just kind of try to kind of move from there. I wanted Marvin Harrison Jr. with that pick. But I guess we're really sold on trying to get rid of Fields. But I did have a question for you. You brought up the Texans.
Yeah.
To you, right now, are the Texans a Super Bowl threat? Like, couldn't win it all this year with the moves they made, especially the ones they needed to make on the defensive end. You didn't even bring up Jeff Okuda. I think that was huge for them. But
Yeah.
the moves that they needed to make on the defensive end, they made it. And Tank Dell's coming back because he wasn't here at the end of last season. Still got Noah Brown, still got Nico Collins. What do you think about this team's chances to win it all next season?
I think based off of what we saw last year with CJ Stroud's breakout, what their offense was capable of doing, and they added another weapon with Joe Mixon, and then they beefed up an already solid defense. Getting Daniil Hunter, I mean, that may be I mean, it's a top five signing, I think, so far in free agency. I think the Texans, maybe it's a hot take. Call it a hot take if you want. Making it to the divisional round last year and then adding what they've already added, and we haven't even hit the draft yet. The Houston Texans are Super Bowl contenders. I'll put it that way. I love what I'm seeing. I like D'Amico Ryans as a coach. He succeeded with San Francisco as their coordinator and now as a head coach. He's putting it all together. Took them to the playoffs. added big time piece on the defense, and you have a star in the making in C.J. Stroud at quarterback, and then not to mention you have Daniil Hunter added on the other side of Will Anderson Jr. That's a lethal duo. I mean, we talk about lethal duo pass rushers. You're looking at maybe the best coming up this season. I think the Texans are going to make some noise, and I
The
think
only
that
thing I think they can do now, I would say, just try to beef up that O line a little bit. I think when they went against y'all last year in the playoffs, that was the problem. He was constantly under pressure.
yeah,
Beef up that O line, try to protect him, and that's going to happen, especially with great defenses like y'all. But you got to expect it, especially if you're in the AFC. So I think you got to beef up that O line. If they face y'all this year in the playoffs, what's happening? Same thing, or
tell you what, I think Derrick Henry's run over whoever the Texans sent at him.
hey, this could be the year Derrick Henry's done though, man. That they've been working him in Tennessee. I mean, that's happening on that big body, man. That workload for a running back, man. I don't know. I don't know what we can get out of Derrick Henry going forward. But with that being said, we appreciate you guys for tuning in of this episode of the Stat Sheet. Until next time, we out.